Hi, welcome to episode 37 of the podcast. Today I'm going to be talking about a product/UX topic, which is around using workshops in the UX process, particularly with research. And this is a question that I answered some time ago on the Learners app. We'll link to that in the show notes if you don't know what that is. So yeah, let's get into it. Workshops in UX research. Why, how? Typically, when people think about workshops in the context of UX research or product design or product development and so forth, you usually think of like a design sprint or a human-centered design or design thinking workshop type thing. But workshops can be valuable beyond just that context, right? And when it comes to UX research in particular, which is what I'm going to be focusing on in this episode of the podcast, workshops can be useful in all the stages of research, whether you're planning, you're conducting, or you're doing your analysis and synthesis, which is the broad three parts of research, of a research project. And in the planning phase, workshops are especially useful for getting people together to decide what the research is about, like what do you want to find out, so that what are the assumptions that people have. I think this is the best way to gather assumptions, like an assumption mapping workshop where you get everyone in the room to say what are the assumptions, level of confidence in that assumption, and where they have that assumption from. Is it from a customer interview, from some other research they've done, like the source of that, and so that you're having everyone on the same page and you all understand what is happening, what the plan is. So you're clarifying the goals, clarifying the questions that you want to have answered, and you're ensuring alignment. So workshops are useful in the planning phase of UX research for alignment purposes. Second area that workshops are useful for is in actually conducting research. So in this part is more towards the participants in the research project, and the usefulness here is in making your research sessions more activity based, more engaging for the person, especially when you're doing like a lengthy interview. I've done like 3-hour customer interviews, and it was very helpful to have activities involved in the process. You can have them like do a card sort instead of saying what are your priorities in this or that. You can have them like write it out on cards, and then have them like rank order the what they've written down in their cards, just to give them that feel of actually doing something and not just talking. You can also use workshops in like participatory design context, having a group of people, your end users or your target audience, people that you want to learn about, have them together in a room, virtually or physically, and then do a workshop around some activities for what you would like to understand about them. And the final place that workshops are useful is in analysis and synthesis. So after you've done all the research, you want to get everyone together in a room to do something like an affinity map, right? So to get through the insights, to work through the data that you have collected and extract insights together as a team. And then you can also go beyond that and then like do a workshop to prioritize those insights. What is important to focus on? How severe is it? What teams are going to be responsible for what? And so on. And you can do like an insight mapping exercise or a so what's now what's exercise. Like there's so many different kinds of exercises you could do to get everyone together to actually make use of the research insights. So now that you know some of the ways that you can do a workshop, why and how? I should have done the why and how first, but why do a workshop? Sometimes it's easier to get people together to hash out something, and it also is a way to get other stakeholders on your team engaged and involved in research, which tends to lead to them actually being engaged with the insights and using them and applying them and implementing them. So just getting that engagement from the beginning of the planning to the end when you have the insights, and it's a thing that they have invested effort in themselves, and so they are more likely to like want to implement those insights and find ways to incorporate them into their work. That's why I would say that a workshop is impactful. That's how workshops can be impactful in the research process. So on to how. Before you do a workshop, you have to have certain elements clear. You have to know the purpose of the workshop. That is the first thing. The purpose, one. Second, the people. Third, the plan. And fourth, the process. So the purpose is, why do you want to do this workshop? What is the goal? So I already talked about some example goals for a workshop in the first part of how to use workshops in research, but you need to have that clearly in your mind about what is the purpose of this workshop. At the end of this workshop, what do I want to have, or what do I want my team to have? And secondly, you need to know the people, and that ties to the purpose. When you know the purpose of the workshop, then you know who needs to be in the workshop. If it's an alignment workshop, like an assumption mapping workshop, you know that you need to have the product manager, for example, maybe a designer, the business, whoever, someone from the business, and it depends on what kind of projects you're working on. You want to know what assumptions they have. So you want to have those people in the workshop that are relevant to the problem, or that are that want to have the answer to whatever your research project is focused on. And obviously, if it's in the conducting phase, you need the target audience, the people, your participants in the workshop, the end users, target audience. And then on the third part, you need to plan. When you have your purpose and your and the people, you need to plan the workshop. You need to break down the things that you will do in the workshop, right? And you need to have that very clearly in how the workshop will take place, which takes me to the process, which is thinking about the activities you have in the workshop, how many activities you want to have, how long will those activities take, how would they pan out, will they be group activities, will they be individual activities, and then think about what will happen next after the workshop as well. So to wrap it up, you need to know your purpose, you need to know the people who'll be in the workshop, you need to plan the workshop, and you need to define the process of what the workshop will look like. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of A Couple of Things. If you enjoyed this episode or found any part of it insightful, don't forget to share with your friends on your social media, and be sure to leave a comment or a review if you can on your podcast listening app. Thank you.